Penn State football picks up another cornerback in the class of 2022, and if that doesn't make any sense to you, it's because this is basically like a time machine. The transfer portal gives Penn State a bonus player in that class. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Greg Pickel joining us today. Greg, the latest Nittany Lion out of the transfer portal is who?
Yeah, so let's get into it, T. Frank. It's actually, I believe this has to be Penn State history being set today. There's no possible way in my mind. I have to go back and look and be sure, but T. Frank, it's going to go down in the lores of Penn State trivia history that Penn State picked up a player from Mississippi State the same day it lost a player to Mississippi State.
That's
so
right.
Kevon Lee, of course, finally coming out of the transfer portal, the Penn State running back. He goes to Mississippi State, start classes there today, Tuesday, May 16. The same day, Audavion Collins, who is spent 1 year with the Bulldogs as a cornerback, like you mentioned, in the class of 2022. He goes in the portal in April, visits Penn State starting this week on Monday, and on Tuesday decided to pick the Lions as his next college football home. So really interesting player. I think there was some mixed reaction both on the Lions Den message board over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com and also on social media, kind of questioning the take here for Penn State. This is a former three-star recruit who, again, has never stepped foot on a college field. And there's a couple of things I would say here. Number one, you trust Terry Smith, right? And you trust his long-time evaluation abilities and what he's able to see in prospects on tape. Obviously, again, there's none game-wise at the college level yet, but Collins did for a really, really good program in the state of Georgia, T. Frank. And so he comes with a little bit more, I think, battle testing, if you will, than maybe a lot of guys do in the transfer portal, especially ones who didn't play any college games as Collins has at this point. But, you know, when you look at what he does on film, I know you've got to watch a little of it from his high school days. 6 foot, $165. I think that's what we have him at. Let me just verify that quick. Yeah, right around 6 foot, about $165. So, you know, he comes into a Penn State program that has some established players, of course, and I don't think he's rushing to the field. If Penn State has to rush him to the field, that's not ideal, of course.
Right.
I mean, some
Got
of the
a
guys
problem
in
going
front of
on.
him. Yeah. So, you know, again, I don't think you call it a trade in terms of Storm Duck, because Storm Duck came here with veteran experience, with all ACC honors. And obviously he was a guy that a lot of people thought were going to be a fit at Penn State. That didn't turn out to be the case, clearly, with him moving on to Louisville after spring practice. But you get another body in that room now for Terry Smith, that cornerback's room, and a guy that has at least been through the rigors of a college football season before, academics, on the field, off the field, all of that. So I see very limited downside to this take, D. Frank, and I think that there's a reason Penn State moved as quickly as they did to try and earn his commitment, which they did.
Who are the other schools that were in play here for Audavion Collins? Because I know what happens a lot of times when we look at this situation is that there's a feeding frenzy everyone offers, and then things kind of die down and players can select from that group. But for the, you know, I don't want to say the top three, like this is a recruitment, but it kind of is. Who were the teams that Penn State was competing with for Collins's his services coming out of the portal here?
Yeah, so Western Kentucky and Akron were the two programs that he reported had extended him an offer along with Penn State. I'm hoping to catch up with him at some point, either you know, this week, and try and get a little bit more info. It can be hard with the portal sometimes because guys might start to put their offers out there, T. Frank, and then it's not so much like high school where everyone's blessed to receive an offer from every program, and you know, they tell you it's their fifth offer and they're sixth from this conference or that conference school. You know, the portal guys, for the most part, you have a few that really report everything, and then you have some that are hit or miss. So we know at least those two programs were involved, and of course Penn State too. So, you know, when he came out of high school, I want to pull this up just so I don't get it wrong, but he did have a top five that included some pretty significant programs. Let me pull that up here, T. Frank, while we are chatting. So he committed to Mississippi State in August of 2021. Like we mentioned, in the class of 2022. And so I know Michigan State was a school he considered, Tennessee, Indiana, and also UCF out of high school. So he picked the Bulldogs, obviously spent 1 year there. You know, they unfortunately, the passing of Mike Leach, who he committed to, changed the way that program looked. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of familiar faces still there, but whether that has anything to do with why he went into the portal, maybe it was as simple as they brought in, you know, a pretty fair amount of corners down there at Mississippi State, from what I've been able to gather here quickly this afternoon. So it may have just been he was passed on the roster a bit, or didn't get to the field as fast as he wanted to, because some of those other guys did. And you know, what does that say about his ability to play at Penn State? I wouldn't read too far into it, but you know, again, I think He could play one snap at Penn State, Frank. He could play 100. He could play 500. And I think the long and short of it is it's going to take probably a little bit of time for him to be game ready, unless he has more weight on him than what we know at this point in time. But, again, I would just say this. Terry Smith does not go throw cornerback offers around just for his health. And Manny Diaz doesn't either. And they both have a track record. So I think you trust their evaluation here, and they think that this is a move they want to make. And, you put your faith in them if you're a Penn State fan, and you wait to see what Audavion Collins can do once he gets to Penn State.
Yeah, you mentioned and that's a great point. I had not thought about that with Mississippi State and a coaching change. This is a ripe opportunity. You talk about Johnny Dixon in the room. That's how Penn State got Johnny Dixon. There was a coaching change, I believe, at North Carolina, and then he decommitted from the program. Penn State picks him up the transfer portal and has multiple years of eligibility. You're watching here on YouTube. You can see I put up here all of his offers coming out of high school. You mentioned Mississippi State, Tennessee, Michigan State, Indiana. So a couple of schools, a couple of Big Ten schools, couple of schools that have some weight to the name, I guess you could say. But the Storm Duck to Audavion Collins, like you're not making that comparison in terms of their ability to play this year, but it solves a different problem on the roster. We've talked about this kind of lack of veteran experience behind the guys that are going to play this year, and the need for more bodies in that room, the need for more talent. So I think Audavion Collins can solve that problem, where Penn State, and we talked about this with Sean Fitz multiple times when talking about portal needs, that cornerback was a need, and also cornerback was a need. You needed a guy to play as a depth player this year, and then you needed somebody to play for the future, because Storm Duck was not going to solve that problem for you as somebody who's going to be on the roster for multiple years. Because he's a 2022 commit, and because he didn't play last year, I think it's entirely fair that we dip into his high school film and see what Penn State is bringing to the table. Now, I've had just a hurried look at this. This is just off the cuff in terms of basic evaluation, but he reminds me a little bit of Antoine Belgrave Shorter, who's in the class of 2023, in terms of a guy who's got a lot of really good skills. He's here down here on the bottom, going to catch a touchdown pass. This is his senior film from 2021. He's a good-sized corner. I'd say he's not big, but he's got good size. He's got good length, but not elite length. He's got good speed, but not elite speed. And this is the part where I think I mentioned Belgrave Shorter, a good tackler. So a guy that is physical and brings a little bit more than the 165 pounds you see on film. And also, you see a lot of on here in terms of the plays that are on film. You can see nose to nose with receivers. He's playing in man coverage. He's coming up. He's tackling. So these are some skill sets and some physical attributes, playing man coverage, having the hips and the ability to flip and run, that would be attractive to Penn State when they're trying to play Manny Diaz's system, to get these guys to come in and play a lot of press man coverage, but also have the ability to play some off coverage, play some zones, and then come up and run support. Additionally, he's got I know 165 pounds right now, but I think there's an opportunity in the future, depending on how he grows. He could be another field corner or field safety for Penn State, another guy that comes in and plays that quasi slot role. He's got a couple plays on film here with his tackling ability, his physicality outside of his size. I think that could lead its way to him playing on the roster, even if he doesn't make it a corner, at a different position. So 4 years of eligibility, a blank slate, and this is kind of what Penn State goes for, finding these guys that if they're not outright superstars at corner, they have man coverage skills, they have the ability to make these havoc plays. You see here and pick him up a fumble for a touchdown, and then be a guy that can play multiple positions if he doesn't stick at corner, because obviously Penn State is going to try and recruit elite talent, even in the class that they're recruiting right now, with Jameer Grimsley and some of the other players they're going after in this particular class. So I think it's a good fit in terms of long-term projection, quality, not going to blow you away, but a quality addition to the roster, and somebody that they would have recruited in the class of 22, but they didn't have the opportunity to. Penn State never offered a guy from all the way down in Georgia. So just kind of a nutshell look at what he brings to the table, just a quick look at his film. Fits in line with what Penn State looks for at corner. Anything else that you want to talk about in terms of Collins, his road to Penn State, or what you think about this going forward? Do we have a timeline of when he's going to join the Nittany Lions?
No, not at the moment. I mean, I think obviously you would I hate to make assumptions like this because you just don't know, but a logical thought would be that he probably has to get back to Mississippi and pack up his things and all of that. So,
Yeah.
the the summer semester starts this week. Obviously, there's 2 of those. So, you would like to get him here as soon as possible, but I think that, I'm not sure how exactly that all will work out. Clearly, he just committed a couple hours ago, so we'll learn more. But, again, I think it's a good reminder of what the portal can do for you. You're going to have the former 4 and 5-star guys who were really good and want to go somewhere for whatever reason, and it may be a bad reason, it may be a good reason, it may be a bigger stage, it may be because they aren't living up to that hype. And so what you have here is a 3-star prospect who you said it a minute ago, and I think that's the perfect way to put it, a clean slate for him coming to Penn State. Again, I don't think anyone's sitting here forecasting he's going to be a future all Big Ten pick or anything like that. But at the same time, Penn State's not using a scholarship on a guy it doesn't think has the ability to get to that stage at some point down the road. So is there work to do? Yes. Is it going to probably take some time for him to get on the field? Yes. And is it possible that he may never get there? Of course it is. Just as it's possible he could come in and stun everyone and make a move up the depth chart quickly. Obviously, Penn State's very young in that room. There's going to be, I think, when we talked to Terry Smith back in the spring, he mentioned there'd be some of those young guys on the travel squad, and maybe Collins finds his way there. That's going to be one of those under the radar position battles, right? I mean, there's not a lot of talk or articles written about the, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, cornerback. But, when you look at the travel roster, what it means in the future, what experiences those guys get, it'll be one of those talking points that we'll have in the summer of which guy is making a move, be it Collins, be it Elliott Washington or Zion Tracy or, somebody else. So time will tell. But, I think it's a fine move for Penn State to see where it goes. And, obviously he needs to get up here now, get to work, and see where the chips fall.
I think another part of this conversation, you make a great point there at the end of this battle for maybe the 4th or 5th corner. You don't have to immediately burn Elliott Washington's red shirt now at this point. Like if Audavion Collins can come in and special teams is going to be a part of this. If he's going to be able to contribute on special teams, he's not as big as Elliott Washington despite being a year older. Like Elliott Washington is a physical kid. But Collins, as you saw on the film, he's not afraid to hit. He can run. He can cover punts and kicks. And if that's part of they want to save Elliott Washington's red shirt, now they have a guy in the mix with a little bit of experience, as you mentioned, in a program to come in and do that as well. And maybe he sees some plays at corner. Maybe, maybe not. But that special teams part of it, I think, is going to be a factor for Stacey Collins. And it can also help the roster overall maintain its scholarship breakdown and eligibility and all that stuff. So we'll be breaking all of this down. You'll get more information from Collins when you get a chance to talk to him. So make sure you subscribe to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com to get that information. 6 months for $29.99. A great deal to get you inside information, exclusive content, and premium content from Blue White Illustrated. He's Greg Pickel, doing a great job covering all of this stuff. Thank you so much, Greg. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Please subscribe to Blue White Illustrated here on YouTube. Like the video. We'll be back with all the breaking news from Penn State.